Om Shanti, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome back. How are you? Sister Gita, Om Shanti.
Sister Jenna.
Sister Gita is even saying Om Shanti to everyone today. How sweet. She's feeling so much better today. We have to keep sending lots of vibrations and good feelings towards her because she's such a beautiful spirit. I'm so thrilled. I'm looking forward to our conversation today. Not only because it's one of my favorite subjects, one that Daddy Janki used to talk so much about. In Hindi, it's pronounced "Me kaun," who am I, translated in English. Do we know that? And right now, there are so many folks around the world hunkered down in their homes, in their apartments, with their families, and they're no longer able to express an I that they're accustomed to. Today's conversation will be focused more on what is the real I, who really am I, and how do I serve the real I when I get out of COVID crisis. So, usually I talk about a lot of different things before we get into the depths of the show, but I'm so excited because I have one of my old-time brothers. Back in the day, we were together in India. We've done stuff together here in the US. I visited him on some of his movie sets when he was filming. I think that was Treme in New Orleans, and so I'm going to invite you to really stay tuned, bring out your pen, your paper, and really jot down some points that you feel really are transformative for you. Things have changed physically, but have you changed spiritually? Have you changed? And is the change that you're going through one that seems to have you feeling a lot more settled, a lot more aware of your thoughts and what these thoughts serve? When I was a young girl and my mother started to introduce me to meditation and Rajyoga, and she used to tell me, "Who am I? Jen, do you know who you are?" And I would be like, "Of course I do." And everything that I used to think about who I was always physical. Color of my skin, my gender, my race, things, the clothes that I like, the cars that I drove, the place that I lived, the jewelry that I wore. I was very big on wearing certain particular jewelry, especially watches. I always had an affinity to those things. And when I look back at my life now spiritually, I would ask, why was that so important to me? And it was because it was marketed in such a way that if you own a Patek Philippe, or if you owned a Cartier, you were wealthy, you were rich, you had arrived. And so a lot of these ideas of my material identity changed a lot when something inside of me, the soul, woke up. And so when we look at the awakening of the soul, we look at a kind of a deep honesty that you and I must have at some point in our lives about who we are and where we're going. It's an important question. It's so simple. Who am I? Where am I going? And compared to all the souls in the world that I know, do I really belong to anyone? Or do I belong to the one? For generations upon generations, isn't the soul deeply connected to Source? So let's just pause for a little bit and think about this idea. What if you took 10 seconds of silence right now with me? And you start to realize like all of your energies start to gather behind your eyes. And what if as you focused, you started to focus on the point of energy that's right behind your eyes, that is you. And let's say that that vibration or that thought that you're having is filled with so much good, love or peace or purity, what do you think will be the vibration around you right now? Let's just say you choose to say to your mind or to your inner being, I'm a happy soul, I'm a beautiful soul, I'm a pure soul, I'm a loving being. What would be the vibrations? How would you feel? And if someone were to ask you right now in that state of awareness that you're in, who are you? How would you answer? You would say, I'm peace, I'm good. Then they would need to ask you, well, tell me, what does your good do in the world? Ah, I'm a physician. I teach meditation. I'm an actor. I'm a singer. I clean the streets. I pick up the garbage. I work at a restaurant. I'm a teacher. I'm a homemaker. I do this. I, the soul, in a state of goodness, perform my task or my role with this quality. But right now, because so much has shut down, there are some feelings that we haven't addressed for a long time. And those feelings have been supported by media, our families, our friends, technology, the environment, the society. And when I'm not coming from the original place of who I am, I adapt an interpretation of who I think I am to be a physically driven awareness, a human awareness, a body awareness. And sometimes when I'm in that mode, majority of the times, it's driven by an intention and a motive that cannot always have the greatest light surrounded by me. It can sometimes initiate a flat energy, a pull me back energy, pull me back vibration. It can create an energy of obstacle, challenges, confusion, fear, anxiety, disappointment, jealousy, judgment, criticism. As you can see, I have a lot of experience in how that energy can create a vibration around you. So imagine if after today's conversation, you left with the awareness that you know you are a soul, and whatever you record inside of you as an experience or a feeling stays with you for a while, and that you will always have the power to choose. And you and I are always looking to make choices that serve a power in our personality. The question is, will you serve the power of your real self, the love and the power and the purity that you are? Or will you serve the human self only? The role, the title, the gender, the race, the religion, which can all be compromised in a second. Our lockdown, due to this particular period that we're in, nobody cares what watch you're wearing. Nobody cares what car you're driving. Nobody cares the name brand clothes you're wearing. Nobody cares if the bottom of your shoe has a red color. Nobody cares about your hair. You just have you. So to what extent have you been serving the real you? Take a look at this video, which I just did. Very amateur, don't get excited. But the idea is to give you a glimpse that in you, the soul, whatever thoughts you create, generates a vibration. Enjoy it. Om Shanti. As I sit here in quiet reflection, I focus behind my eyes. I'm aware of the energy of light that I am. and that each thought creates a vibration. When I think thoughts that are influenced by anger, lust, greed, attachment, and ego, the vibration spreads and it creates obstacles, challenges, and difficulties. But when I choose to focus on thoughts of my original nature, peace, purity, wisdom, happiness, I generate light. I generate an atmosphere of love, bliss, and power. Let me sit here and choose to think thoughts of light. Food for thought, right? Sanjo said to me, "That's not an amateur video." I said, "Yes, it's amateur. I did the voiceover." But that was a project that we worked on years ago, which didn't come to fruition, but now it is as a result of the video. Did you see the image? If you generate pure thoughts, you radiate light in a space. And if you get into the fear and the anxiety and the doubt, it becomes cloudy, dark. And as we know, like attracts like. And we don't want that because we're all actors out there playing our part. And you and I want to play the best particular part that we've been ordained to play. I'm so happy to welcome a friend, someone who I'm so proud to call a friend, a brother, a professional, a big heart, a wise individual, Clarke Peters. Clarke Peters has worked on various film productions over, 3-4 decades of his life? But he's also been a friend of the Brahma Kumaris and a personal friend of mine for many years. He and my mom, Sister Gita, almost look like twins. I think she's cuter though. But what I'd like to do is to take this time to welcome our brother Clarke Peters to the air. Clarke, welcome. Glad that you could join us.
Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you. You know, it's the other side of midnight on this side of the world, but this is a worthwhile conversation to be having at this hour before I go to sleep.
Thank you for taking the time to stay up while you're in Europe, I think, or UK, right?
That's right.
Oh,
That's
beautiful,
right.
beautiful. Now you guys are locked down there too, right?
Oh yeah, yes. It's not. It hasn't been as severe as France or as Italy, but it's and some people have completely disregarded it. But this weekend, it seems that there are less people on the streets and in the parks and there's nobody at the beaches, and so we're flattening that curve, so to speak. You know, and it's interesting and interesting energy and interesting time. Yes, indeed.
Clarke, you and I have had extremely deep conversations over the years. I haven't had a chance to sit with you and talk about what you have been feeling this particular moment in time means spiritually to all of humanity. What are your thoughts?
Wow, that's a very deep question. It's funny, but it's a question that I've been having partial conversations with a lot of people on social media, because it's the first time that the whole world is a little bit quieter. You know, there's a little bit, the air is a little cleaner. You know, people appear to be a little nicer when you do see them, despite the fact that everyone is keeping this huge boundary around themselves, you know. But what does it mean spiritually? Well, I think what it means it's. I don't know what my audience is here that I'm speaking to, so I'm just going to dive into the deep end here. I put up something this morning where I felt that even the earth has a consciousness, and that perhaps maybe the earth itself is taking time to repair. And while it takes time to repair, you know, it realizes that we here as well need time to repair. We're moving at breakneck speeds, you know, so no one has time to stop and pause and feel themselves, you know, or feel their partners, you know, spend time with their partners, let alone themselves. We're so much living outside of ourselves. And by that I mean we're meeting deadlines, we're creating things outside, you know, but we're not looking inside, you know. So with this lockdown and being told you can't go outside, now is the time to go inside. And I think that, you know, the earth as well, going inside has found a certain peace as well. And I feel that that's sort of emanating. If peace can emanate, that's what I feel is sort of happening now, happening here.
Beautiful.
You know, and it's given me a chance to sit back and well, not sit back at all, actually. I've been very busy putting in a garden. All of my productions have stopped, and so, you know, it's like, what am I going to do? There you go. That's something that'll serve my mind and my inner spirit. Something, put in some vegetables and some flowers.
Oh, that's
Yes.
lovely. You know, our conversation today is on a topic that I know you love dearly, which is on the soul. And earlier on, I shared the fact that the soul is behind the eyes, and you know, it's the inner world, it's the inner eye, and the inner
Yes.
eye captures just about every single thing that is passing by it, or it hears, or it smells, or it touches.
Absolutely.
And you know, I've always been fascinated by your profession of acting. And one of the things that I've been very perplexed, moved, inspired, enriched, want a little bit of, is it fascinates me how an actor can play a compelling part that convinces millions of people for generations upon generations. And they can leave that part and go into a completely different genre and a completely different character and then convince me they're that too. And I've sat with this, Clarke, many occasions and asked, how is it possible for the soul to disassociate from the story so easily or so beautifully when you know, human beings, we tend to be so stuck on, oh, I'll never forget what you did to me last week. I'll never, you know, I'll never let you forgive, you know, I'll never forgive you for what you did 10 years ago. And I go, an
Yes.
actor
Yes.
doesn't do that. Are we not playing our role in the world as the best
Yes.
actors that we can be?
Yes. You know, all the world's a stage, and we have our players on it. We have our entrances and our exits. You know, I think that's sort of paraphrasing what William Shakespeare had written. And I think the more I delve into my spiritual life and my professional life, the more I see that that's true, and I see more and more parallels with the theater, or particularly the theater, not necessarily film, but particularly the theater and acting there, where we come into a theater, we put on our costume, we play our role, we take off our costume, and we go home, you know, only to come on back the next day and do the same thing. And people think that you're doing the exact same thing every day. Well, you're not, because you're playing with other people, and other people have influences on that particular story, and they bring to that performance what their day was like. And so I kind of feel that, you know, that is also the journey of a soul. If we're to believe that we are reincarnated, after we shed this body. Isn't that you hanging up your costume,
Yes.
and going home? And so there's the practice of that, in theater. And the thing that allows us to do one role and then another is to focus on what you're doing at a particular time in a particular production. I can't be doing Five Guys Named Mo and then at the same time be thinking about Arthur Miller's American Clock. Two different worlds. Two different two different genres of theater. One's a musical and one is a straight dramatic piece.
Mm-hmm.
So what you need in between these moments is a moment of quiet, a moment of peace, a moment of remembering who you are. I have to shed, I've got to leave the character behind and look at the next one. I cannot carry him into my next role. There may be parts of that character that are similar to what I'm playing, but I should just leave him alone. Now, that's theater. What we have most of the time, what people see most of the time, is film and television. Now, that's a different, that industry, the philosophy of that industry is that a character or an actor plays a role that the public is familiar with, and then that actor always plays that role.
Mm-hmm.
So that becomes stereotyping. And in my mind, that limits the potential
Absolutely.
of the actor. That doesn't give you the stretch that an actor can. I often talk about Sam Jackson as being the angry black man. Well, the industry wants him to be that. The industry wants him. But, Sam is really a really fine and well-developed stage actor. And it has nuances that you'll never see on film because the industry won't give him that opportunity. They're happy for him to play that role, and he's got bills to pay.
I get that.
So I can, I can
You
dig
can
that for
understand.
sure.
Can I jump in right there? Because I think you said
Sure.
something so powerfully that people do impose a particular stereotype on us, on
Yes.
you, on a husband and a wife, a mother
Yes.
and her child. What thoughts do you have for the soul to break the vibration of that person's vision on you that has put you in the box?
Well, the first thing to do is not to give up the power of who you are to let somebody else determine who you are.
Mm-hmm.
As the soul, I've been thinking about this very, very deeply recently. The soul is I am an amazing entity. I come into this life. I put on these clothes, this body, and somehow I can keep it going for 60, 70, 100 years. That isn't that isn't a Duracell battery. This energy that animates this material that I'm in is magnificent. And it's got to be so magnificent that it not only animates it, but it's the way that this mechanism works. It pumps thousands of gallons of blood around this body daily. It feels and senses things grossly and subtly. You can feel the wind, you can feel the harshness of a table. And if you're really subtle, you can feel somebody walking behind you without seeing them or hearing them. That aspect of our personality and being is what fascinates me the most. If I am a soul, if I am to believe that, then occupying myself with those thoughts or familiarizing myself with those thoughts, which takes time and privacy and quiet in order to do so, then no matter what a person thinks of me, I know who I am. And I don't need to play that particular role for them. Now, if you're not aware of who you are, then you will be pulled from pillar to post trying to please everyone or trying to get away from everyone until you find out who you are. And it requires taking time and sitting with yourself quietly. And as you say, that energy behind the eyes, you know.
Yeah, I want to put a particular story to this, and I want to invite our listeners and our viewers, actually, more our viewers, to participate in it because I was just really excited. I told Santosh, come on, put me on. I really want to talk to Clarke about this because I want you to see me as I'm saying this to you all the way in the UK.
Well, I decided not to look at the screen, so I'm just on the phone with you. I'm just on
Okay,
the phone
okay.
with
So
you.
next time, so you'll use your third eye to see me because I really wanted to get this. I was like antsy in my pants. One of the areas, like I showed a video earlier about the vices, the ego, the anger, the attachment. There is it's a very, very strong energy in us. The ego, the attachment, which just gradually built itself in our vibration. And I found that even if somebody has put me in a particular package, I'm struggling with breaking through it because that vibration feeds the image that they're looking at me in. But at a very deep level, at a very deep level, if I pay attention to the director, which I call God, the director is going to keep trying to gauge me to fulfilling my part with the best virtues that he can possibly see in the potential of the part that he feels I've been given.
Right.
And the issue that I'm having is that we don't pay attention to the director all the time. We pay
No.
attention to the extras and the other actors on the set. Help me and our viewers to think about what's the best way, how do you focus you, the soul, more on the director, trusting that that director knows the best for you, which I'm calling God. My director is the Supreme, Baba. How do you do to get your being kind of focused in that area? Because we're going to need to focus in that area so we can break that
Yes.
attachment. Does that
Yes.
make sense, the question?
Yes, it does.
Because
It
I was
does.
just like jumping out of my seat trying to go, I got to talk to
Yes.
Clarke. I got to get in
Yes.
here.
There's there's and I don't think that one can do it by just walking down the street and thinking, well, I'm talking to you, God, or you talking to me? That no. I think first of all, it takes a lot of effort, and it does. You must put in the time. You have to put in the time. If you don't put in the time, you'll get just what you'll get
You get what you
what
got.
you get what you got. That's right. But if you do put in the time, and in putting in the time, it takes your attention to a peaceful kind of place where you are allowed to, where you can allow yourself to hear and feel vibrations coming back that somehow, I don't know the mechanics of it, it sounds like a voice. It sounds like a whisper. It sounds like a thought, and at first you're not too sure of what it is. And then you figure, well, wait a second, let me just spend time with it because it's in my head. It's not anybody else's head. So what should I be afraid of? You know? And if you are that lucid and that clear and you begin to listen, you'll find that something is talking to you and has always been talking to you.
Yeah.
And the more we listen, the voice doesn't get louder, it just gets clearer.
Clearer.
Right? It's never valuable.
Yes.
But it is I gotta have that watch, man, because if I got that watch, then I feel better about myself. Well, that's just the illusion of the ego. The ego is as well. You can never get rid of the ego, but you might be able to be a friend of it. You might find a way to get it to work for you rather than against you. And this requires having a conversation with yourself. Going, no, I'm not going over there. Why am I not going over there? Well, I'm not going over there because, in actual fact, in the long term, that's not really going to serve me.
Yes.
It serve my better self. It might give me immediate gratification, but that's it. You know, um, we have. It's necessary. It's necessary to have ego, particularly as an actor. You need to have that because that's what feeds. That's what motivates your character, and you can change this is why I know the ego is an interesting thing because you can change the ego to the character that you are playing.
Wow.
There's some characters who are very meek and mild, who are set upon. Well, Clarke is not set upon, but I've got to put myself in that person's place. So what happens with the ego? The ego takes a step back.
Okay, I've got a question where that's concerned. The power of detachment, the power of detachment, and the power in detachment. And when I look at the power in detachment, I can feel that the soul is in a state of it's
Power.
settled. Yeah, it's settled, and in its self-esteem, and it's in its self-respect. And so it can sway with whatever it needs to move because this is outside of me. So when an actor applies its ego to adapt a particular part, when you and I are trying to make a business deal or deal with a difficult relationship, wouldn't you say the ego is really when it is refined, that it's reached a place of truth, a deep place of self-esteem and empowerment, that it becomes detached from the limited narratives that try to distract the soul from itself?
Yes. That's what I mean. Is that it takes a second step. It takes
Yeah.
a step back. It itself becomes the observer. But in order to get to that point, you need to have that conversation with yourself.
Yeah. That's why meditation is so important.
That is precisely what meditation is so important for. Meditation is, and particularly now that the whole world is in lockdown, this is the best time, the best time before all hell breaks loose again, to sit in quiet, to sit quietly and to get to know yourself, to be that detached from all the stuff that's going on around you. You as an individual can have no impact on everything that you hear in the news.
Yes.
You cannot. But at the same time, you have a choice of whether to listen to that or whether to control how much you want of that information in you. And once you have that information, then you have a choice of how you are going to disseminate that and use that.
Beautiful.
Right.
Beautiful.
But you must do that, and this is a perfect time. This time on the planet Earth is the best time for all of this type of spiritual development to happen. It really is, because everyone is in the same boat. You know that this is something that's going around the world, a pandemic, not an epidemic, a pandemic. That's so. This moment of this power of detachment,
Very powerful.
is very powerful.
So it is powerful. Sorry, continue.
And the power in it again is is what you apply, or what you initiating yourself to sit down quietly to have that early morning meditation or that late at night meditation to remember who you are. One of the things that that helps is that while everyone is out there walking around quietly, moving across the street as you walk up one side of the sidewalk, and keeping the social distancing, is what is life? What is this energy? What is this energy of life? And it's all around you. It's in the trees. They seem to have some animation. It's in the bugs. They have some animation. We know the flowers and the animals have some animation. This thing that in India they call prana, in China they call it chi. In Japan they call it ki. In the West it's the life force.
Yeah.
This is something that only the soul can really begin to perceive, understand, and control.
Beautiful. Beautiful. You've been a guest on my America Meditating Radio, and
Thank you.
we've been friends for many years. And one of the retreats that we hosted at Peace Village Learning and Retreat Center was the the Karma Cafe that we hosted. And one of the questions around the cafe table amongst the guests was, what if you had an interview to do on a mega network? And the network went to 8 billion people. And what the interviewer wanted to find out is for you to introduce to the world the knowledge of the soul. How would you introduce the soul to the world, Clarke Peters? I'm trying to get a shortcut for you to give me the answer. Now, you've been a
Now we'll
student
take
of the Brahma
now
Kumaris. You know that
now we'll take a
answer.
pause for station identification. well,
Like,
it's funny. I know I just said take station identification. That is actually the answer. Station identification. What is the soul? The soul is that part of you that you have forgotten, but is always active. When somebody says, well, why didn't you pick that up over there? You say, well, I changed my mind. What's that? What's wrong with you? Oh, there's something in my eye. Who is the I who's owning that? Who is it who's owning the mind in order to change it? If you can figure out who that is, because we all have said this, I changed my mind. Well, who is the I that's doing the changing? Who is the I that owns these hands? Who is the I who's going down the street? Who is the I? I put to you that the I is the soul.
mm-hmm.
And that we acknowledge it every day, but we're not familiar with it. It's like a bad habit.
Yeah.
You've got the greatest energy in the world. You've got the greatest thing in the world. Every single one of us who has a conscience is a soul. Everyone. Look out your window. Everyone who is suffering, everyone who is helping, everyone who is just coasting on by, every person you see is a soul. All they are they've come onto this play, onto the stage to play that role before they take off their clothes, hang them up in the dressing room, and go home. Everyone. So if I was to try to talk to 8 billion people, I'd have to find out what that is in every one of those languages.
Oh, that's powerful.
I'm going fishing. Okay, who's the I who says I'm going? Who is the I? Who is the I? Who is the I? That's the question. Who am I? You are a soul. That is who you are. You are a soul. First and foremost. You are not a body with a soul. No. You are a soul who happens to have a body going through this drama here. That's what you are. And the more you look at life like that, the easier your life will be. And the easier it will be for you to accept those that don't understand the priority of their life.
Clarke Peters, you get an A for your studies with the Brahma Kumaris.
Oh, thank you.
You make us proud, brother. Santosh, does anyone have any questions that are watching in that we might have some viewers who would like to raise some questions to you, and we'll ask them now. It's really interesting, Clarke, because we are coming to a really profound awakening to recognize who we are. And one is definitely the soul, and the second thing is, well, do you know what type? And in our teachings to have the deep experience that the type of soul that we really are originally is peace and love. And if I can't bring peace and love into my role, I'm not paying attention to the director and I'm not paying attention to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and as I was saying, in order to get to that peace, you have to spend time to find out what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like where we are now in the world is like I would kill for a Nobel Peace Prize.
I get
you
it.
know, no, if you don't know what peace is, then if you don't know what peace is, how can you be asking for it?
Exactly. Exactly.
If you've never experienced it, how do you know?
Right.
It just becomes some words that somebody has put on a banner, and you're following that, but you have no idea of what you're asking for.
Well, that's something they always say, you can't become what you can't see, and you can't become what you can't feel. And if we don't remember what peace feels like anymore, what are we trying to, go
That's right.
after?
That's right.
So the pause that we're getting right now with this lockdown because of the corona crisis is a gift in disguise if
Yes.
we recognize it in that way.
I totally believe that. And when I was saying earlier that the earth, is as well part of this drama, and that even it is playing some role in this. It is playing a role in this because, from what I understand, a virus is not necessarily a living organism.
Mm-hmm.
You can't kill a virus. You can just inhibit it and stop it from grabbing onto the next host. You know, I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor, but this is what I've been told. Well, a rock isn't a living organism either. But yet they're very much a part of the earth.
Yes.
This atmosphere that we're in is very much a part of the earth. The water is very much a part of the earth. A couple of months ago, Australia was on fire and the smoke was everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
This people were, the earth was suffocating. But also, I think the earth had to do that to burn all of those because some trees need to have fire in order to survive into the next one, from one generation to the next. It's a shame that human beings decided to be in the path of the earth while it was doing its thing.
Yes.
And maybe that's what's happening now. This coronavirus is supposed to affect our breathing apparatus. Well, I find that the air around the earth is as well a little bit cleaner now.
Oh, a whole lot cleaner.
So what is the correlation between these two things? What is the correlation between the earth as being part of this drama as well, and we being the players on it as a stage?
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I really do.
Me too.
I really do.
I think that it's proving to all of us that a little bit of introspection, some pause, reflection, purity in our connections, relationship, diet, cleanliness, washing hands all the time, wash, being economical. It's basically saying, look, you can have this world for as long as you want, but could you just slow it down and just be mindful that I can only keep giving so much?
Yes.
And I think it's also teaching us that we too need to do that for our own spirits in order to
Yes.
bring the best to the planet.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
life is
Yes.
beautiful. Life is absolutely beautiful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have it any other way. I really wouldn't have it any other way. And I think this is like it's. I feel like it's saying Earth is saying to us, yeah, you can do this. You can clean me up. You can
Yes,
do this. Global warming would have happened anyway. All we did was exacerbate it with all the technology and the stuff that we have. You know,
indeed.
it goes through its cycle. The Earth has its own natural cycle.
Yes.
You know, it shows us that with just the little cycle of night and day and the seasons.
I know, I know,
You
I
know,
know, I get
so
it.
if it's showing us that, so so if in
Yeah,
this part of its cycle is saying like, come on, you guys, give me a hand,
yeah. Give me a
and
break
if you don't
too.
give me a hand, I'm afraid I'm gonna have to do this to you. I'm gonna have to put this virus out there just to slow your butts down,
I just
you know.
cannot believe that. Listen, I think we've got a question by one of our viewers. What's the question,
Okay.
Santosh?
It says, I'm a product of every experience I have had in the past and every choice I am making. Is it okay to want to identify what has formed me towards these choices and experience?
The question I'll try to get clear. I'm a product of every experience that I've had, right, in the past,
And every choice I'm making.
and every choice that they're going to make.
Is it okay to want to identify
Is it okay to want to identify?
what has formed me towards these choices and experience?
So basically, what they're saying is it okay to keep the identity of their past, knowing that it influences their present choice? Is that a part of the journey, or do they need to negate all of that and start with a fresh page?
No, no. You are the sum total of all of your experiences. Your question is as well one of those experiences. Your perception and your desire to ask that question is one of those experiences. So you can't erase your whole past and just start out new. What will happen afterwards is that you will build on top of this now and use this road to take you to wherever you want to go in your enlightenment or your state of enlightenment. You can't. There's no. We will always be adding to the experiences.
Yes, I love that.
You know, some of the experiences will just fall by the wayside. They will become insignificant, but they will always be a part of you.
Yes,
Your attention will just go to what you want at that particular point in time,
perfect,
or into the future.
perfect,
So,
perfect.
second part of it is, should I only be focusing on who I am versus how I am?
Oh, here's an interesting part to continuation of the question. He's asking, should I just focus more on who I am or how I am?
Is Bettina.
Like,
Well,
yeah, like,
but
isn't that an
who
interesting question? Should I be
yeah,
focusing on the how am I am, versus who am I?
no, focus on the who am I,
Yeah,
because the who am I will determine how you are.
that is so true.
But looking
Exactly.
at how you are will never show you who you are,
Beautiful.
right? You know, you
Perfect.
need to focus on who you are first, and the rest of that will fall into place.
Perfect, Clarke
Yeah,
Peters.
yeah.
Clarke, we're getting to an end of our wonderful chit chat. I'm sure you've heard about Daddy Janki's passing, and you and her were so, so close.
Yes,
Would you
yes.
like to share one memory that you hold dear to your heart of one of your many, many encounters with Daddy Janki?
When I first when I first met Daddy, it was rather curious because I didn't know who she was. Who is this little person that everyone is fawning over? But something was curious about that. And what was curious was that every time she came to London, we would always wind up coming to this meditation center at the same time. I didn't know what time she would show up, but I would always be there at the same time she showed up, or just seconds before or after. Even if I had not been there for months, I would go up and it would be the first day that she was there. And I was wondering what the coincidence is of this. And then one day, this is actually before they built the center on Pound Lane. And there was a house that she would visit on St. Gabriel's Road. And I was doing something, and she asked me a question that I didn't understand. And she said something. She was laughing with the sisters, and I heard the word voodoo. And I was thinking, who is this? And I was totally offended. And what I was offended about was something I didn't understand. I had already put on top of this woman something that was not there, an insult that was not there, but a caring that was being given to me that I didn't recognize. So I think we had Amrit Vela that evening or the following morning.
Mm-hmm.
And Amrit Vela is a time when we get up at very early. At that point in time, it was 3:00 in the morning, and we would walk over to this house, and we would sit in meditation from 3:00 to 4:00 or to 4:30. And there were places that everyone wanted to get to. You always wanted to be either by the radiator or by or some place where you sit your back. Well, coming in this day, she waved me over to a place where I would have been where I wanted to be, really, where I just wanted to be comfortable.
Yes.
And I thought, oh, you have recognized me somewhere in there, And I remember trying to I wrote a song. I was writing songs back in those days, and I wrote I had a song to say thank you, basically.
Wow.
That I was beginning to have this understanding, and I wanted to give it to her. I just wanted to play it to her. And if you know Daddy, she would
Yes.
go, no, not right now, not right now. And then when we had a large enough audience, she said, okay, now.
Now.
You can so
She has a way of raising us up, didn't she?
Yes,
Jeez.
very much so, very much so. And it wasn't always sweet.
No, those remember that finger? The wagging of that
Oh
finger?
man.
I've gotten that so many times. I feel like
Oh
my head is wobbling.
yes. The last time I saw her, or the penultimate time I saw her, she always wanted me to sing One Family.
Yeah.
And I hadn't sung it for a long time, so I forgot the lyrics. And I was actually getting very nervous because I knew she was going to ask me to come up. And actually she didn't, but Hansa asked me to come on up and sing this. And I thought, oh no.
Mm-hmm.
So I went up and I sat and I started to get the words
Try to
together.
get the words together.
And I started to sing it a cappella, and I couldn't remember the words. And Daddy knew that I had forgotten the words, and she just looked at me and said, just surrender. Just surrender.
That's her, man. Did you ever get the words in your head?
Not then. Probably, and actually the words came in last week because I still want to put online a tribute to her.
Yes.
I thought that we might have everyone from around the world just sing part of One Family.
Oh, that's beautiful.
A verse or part of that, yeah.
Oh, please tell me. I'd love to participate. We've got
Absolutely.
one person who has a really pressing question, and thank you for sharing with Daddy as we come to a close. Okay, so the question is from Kanu?
Yes.
Yes, what's the question?
What keeps you, Clarke Peters, from getting caught in drama? Or when you are in drama, how how do you get yourself to remembering who am I?
What keeps you from getting caught up in the drama? And if you're in the drama, how do you help yourself to stay connected to who am I? Who you really
Well,
are.
first of all, I appreciate this person thinking that I don't get caught up in the drama. I wish I could. Wish that were me. I do get caught up in the drama, at times, or the sideshows. Now, what helps me is to remember. The way that I remember is that every day I have a little lesson, and something will always bring me back to that lesson. And part of that lesson is always remember that you're a soul.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes a lot of energy. I was telling my wife the other day, today, I was saying how difficult it is. I can wake up, I can have the greatest intention of remembering that I'm a soul and remembering God. I think I'm going to do it with every action, and then it's gone.
Yeah.
And I said, to be honest, in 24 hours, I may have had 5 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
5 hard minutes of remembering. And believe me, even just to get to those 5 minutes has been a real chore. And then there are other days when I'm just flying.
Slip right into it.
But the majority of the time, it's a lot of effort, But in going through the effort, you come to a threshold, and then everything flows easier, and you
Yes.
just feel, you just know. So the
Beautiful
thing is
answer.
to wake up in the morning, find that place. Find that place of peace. Find that place that you remember yourself being a soul.
Yes.
Right. Once you have a bead on that, that's your base to always go back to throughout the course of the day.
Perfect. I remembered how much you always loved the advanced sessions called the Murli. And I remembered how we used to just have these deep churnings with the Murli, remember? And how
Yes.
they really set the tone for the day. That
Yes.
nothing
Yes.
could shake you after you
Yes.
heard your
That's right.
Murli, nothing
That's
could
right.
shake you.
That's right.
We have another
That's right.
question coming up.
Very small, too quick.
Short question.
What is the how to differentiate between ego voice and soul voice?
So your viewer wants to know how does Clarke Peters differentiate between the ego and
Ego voice and soul voice.
the soul voice? Well, I mean, I can answer that quickly. The ego is like the taker, and the soul voice would be the giver. What's your
Yes.
answer?
Yeah, well, that sounds like a very succinct way.
Yeah, it's like the ego's
To get
always
around.
gimme, gimme, gimme. It's all about me.
Yes, that's right.
What's the other
Precisely.
question?
Another one is from Facebook. What is the difference between a soul and a spirit?
Oh, well, that's always been a good question. This one's from
Yeah.
Facebook, not YouTube. What's the difference between soul and spirit?
I don't think there's very much difference between soul and spirit. I think that the soul is the point. I think that the spirit is the personality
Perfect.
of that point.
Perfect. That's it. Yep, absolutely. Why are you so beautiful?
What question? Who's asking that question?
Me.
Who says that I am?
Because I know you. I know your heart. Clarke Peters, thank you for staying up past midnight. Thank you for being
Jenna,
with us.
thank you. Oh, give my love to Santosh and to Michael and to Geeta, please.
I certainly
and to
will.
all of your listeners. That's
Yes.
been really nice.
It's been a pleasure. Give Penny a big hug for me too.
I will pass it on indeed.
Om
Thank you,
Shanti.
Jenna.
Om
Om
Shanti.
Shanti, Ben.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, that was rich. And I really love to challenge Clarke because we've had times where we sat just for hours. And I was sitting here, Sister Geeta and Santosh, and I was like, wait, I got to talk to Clarke about this one, because we would go on for hours, everyone, just sharing about the depths of spirituality. Because as a student of the BKs, we've taken some interesting journeys together. I hope you've enjoyed our talk today on soul and the different variations of how we can feel ourselves and connect to the spirit within. You know, life is beautiful, but we have to choose that particular form or track of thinking to feed the beauty in it. I know sometimes it's challenging. I know sometimes we're going to mess up. And I know sometimes it gets ugly. I know that. But it also gets pretty beautiful too. And I think we need to pay more attention to the times in our lives when we can be beautiful and we can be the best versions of ourselves and represent God's love beautifully on the planet. I appreciate you joining us today. I'll end the show with a beautiful video by Sister Jenti and the mantra of Om. Thank you for your questions. If you have any other thoughts or ideas, please feel free to share them with us. Email us, let us know. I hope that you've signed up to the YouTube for the information on all the events and programs that we're doing online and also now on Facebook. But also, please remember to listen to America Meditating Radio. We have a lot of wonderful, wonderful master classes and experts that are sharing their wisdom with you. Don't forget to turn your attention to Source, to God, to Baba, to Allah, to Jehovah. And it's okay if you mess up, like whatever. Okay. But have a good heart-to-heart conversation with yourself and fix it. Make your present and your future more beautiful than your past. And every second we have a chance to do that. Thanks everyone. Have a good night. Enjoy this video and I'll see you tomorrow. Om Shanti.
There's a sort of person who's really seeking the truth, or there are people who see the conditions of the world and come to the conclusion that there's something not quite right, a lot that's not quite right. And they feel that maybe the answers are not outside, they're within. And so it brings them into the search for values, inner values. It brings them then to spirituality. Spirituality means knowing myself, having a relationship with the divine, understanding the philosophy of give and take, action, reaction. So I've spent time focusing on that. But what's the proof that it's actually working? If truly I'm in touch with my goodness and my original truth, that will then be demonstrated through my life.